Okay, I'm with Jennifer Prediger. You are the writer director, and you play Olivia in the movie Apartment Troubles.
Yes, and I co-wrote, co-directed, co-starred in the movie with my dear friend Jess Weixler, who plays the character Nicole. So It was a co-creation about a codependent friendship, which thankfully she and I don't have. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about your character Olivia.
Well, Megan Mullally, I think, said it best when she said she dresses like a fourth grader. She's kind of a woman child, who is almost obsessed with her best friend and roommate, played by Jess. And she sort of looks to Nicole for everything in life, and their relationship's a little bit murky. They're a little too enmeshed in each other's lives, and the boundaries are a little messed up.
Right.
So
they're two people who are kind of a little too, I wouldn't say involved with each other, but kind of woven too closely together emotionally. And
and we wanted to explore that when two people together, actually start detracting from each person's individuality. That's kind of what we were doing in kind of a buddy comedy format. We were really inspired by Dumb and Dumber and the Odd Couple and With Nail and I.
So how did the idea come about? It's a very unique story because I'm not necessarily, you're definitely keeping a couple steps ahead of the audience in the story.
Well, that's nice to hear. I think there were just so many little aspects of life in New York and trying to make it as an artist here that we kind of took to an extreme. But really, I would say that the basis for the inspiration for the movie was actually this dilapidated bohemian apartment on 10th Street in the East Village, where I was living in an illegal sublet for about a year. And I had to go away for a couple of months to make films in Connecticut, and Jess was in town doing The Good Wife, and she needed a place to live. So she and I met each other for the first time, even though we kind of knew of each other. But I just adored her right away. And so while I was gone for 2 months, she held down the fort. But in that time, the stove almost blew up on her. She got an eviction notice on the door. I mean, there was always something happening with this apartment. The whole bathroom was held together with duct tape. The apartment actually hadn't been updated really since, I'm not going to say since the late 1800s, but it was built in the 1880s, and there were many aspects of the apartment that were original. So there was a very old world immigrant feeling, but also a really kind of creative, vibrant space too.
Yeah.
Only one sink in the apartment. You had to brush your teeth in the kitchen, and it only really ran hot water. So it was just a very funny little apartment, and she and I ended up living there together for a month. And within the first week, we were like, let's just do something with this. So we kind of started creating this world around this nutty apartment.
It's kind of funny because I lived in a dumpy place myself, but it's that place that endears me. It's some of my most fond memories of living in places like that.
Yeah, it's like the salad days or something. There's just something so charming about it, even though at the time it was a little bit awful.
Yeah. I know. Well, here, I'm going to ask a silly question, just because I've lived here in LA all my life, and I've seen a lot of movies and TV shows about New York apartments. And can you kind of give me an idea of what are kind of the differences between New York and LA apartments? For me, LA, it's a pretty straightforward transaction. You pay rent and you live in an apartment. Yeah.
In New York, there's a big difference, which is that, there are a lot of people crammed on this tiny island, and I think finding an apartment is one of the trickiest things people go through living in the city, apart from getting preschoolers into, preschool. But you have to, on many occasions, pay a broker, and those brokers can charge you, 10% of a year's rent or something. So you end up paying sometimes $2,000-$3,000 just to have someone
look for
show you an apartment and then do the paperwork with you. I mean, it's crazy. So there's that, and I think in New York, people get a little trapped in their apartments because once you have one, you don't want to leave it because you know how costly it will be to get another one. So I think a lot of people stay in bad relationships or move in together all too quickly in New York because, it seems more convenient. But I think there are a lot of bad life decisions maybe made just because of the difficulty of getting an apartment in the city.
So you got to find one, capture it, and then bunker in.
Exactly. Right. And if you're an artist or someone who's not making a ton of money, it's all the more of a struggle. So we kind of wanted to play with that and the idea of this creative city that's pretty hard for artists to kind of make it in.
Yeah. Okay, let me, I think I can get one more question in here for you. So, about the theme of it, I hesitate asking about themes because I always feel like I'm going to get it wrong, but the movie starts off with a brief story about the Trouble doll, and the feeling I got from the movie is that sometimes we have this tendency to put disaster off until it actually arrives. Does that seem to be what your theme was? Or the idea that, there are big obstacles we know we're going to have to face, and we just want to put it off as far as possible?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if that was in our minds as we made the movie. I don't know if you know that the movie was originally called Trouble Dolls. And it's just kind of like several things. It's just like these girls having a difficult time of it, trying to find themselves and make it in the city. I do think there's a theme of how when people lose things or it feels like all is lost, that those times can actually be the most fruitful times in a way, because it's like you almost have to lose everything to get on the path that you're really meant to be on. So we were exploring like that kind of loss, which is ultimately maybe a gain.
Right.
With Nicole losing, I don't want to give anything away, but she loses quite a bit, and my character loses a bit, and how that can actually be like a new, improved beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been in that situation in my life, and that's kind of the feeling I got, especially near the end of the movie, of sometimes you just have to detach yourself of the things that are weighing you down, get rid of, or have it kind of fall to pieces, and then kind of be reborn out of that.
Yeah, and like rise from the ashes.
Yeah.
And it feels terrible at the time, but in some ways it can be the greatest gift you've ever gotten. So we tried to explore those themes a bit in the movie.
Okay. Well, thanks. I'm talking with Jennifer Prediger, and you play Olivia in the movie Apartment Troubles, and it's in select theaters and video on demand.
And iTunes.
And iTunes. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right.